Donald Trump.
Breaking news out of China, and we're just hearing that China has just announced more tariffs on U.S. goods to come into effect on Saturday. So the finance ministry says the rate will be raised from 84% to 125%. This is just the latest salvo in a growing trade war between the world's two largest economies. That news from the Chinese Finance Ministry comes a day after Washington clarified that its tariffs on imports from China now sit at 145%. Beijing has been urging the Trump administration to return to what it calls fair dialogue. Concerns over the trade war have already sent markets tumbling again in Asia and the U.S. Take a look at Japan's Nikkei index. It closed Friday's session down 3%. And in China, the Shanghai Composite Index remained steady. On Wall Street, the S&P 500 closed 3.5% down on Thursday. We'll now speak to Wang, who's the president of the think tank Center for China and Globalization, joining us live from Antalya in Turkey this hour. Thanks for your time. Can I get your initial reaction to this news just in that China is announcing more tariffs on U.S. goods taking effect on Saturday, saying the rate will be raised from 84% to 125%?
Yes, thank you. I think this is really gets silly and bit also unnecessary. I mean, U.S. has been imposing tariff again and again and again, and without really seeking dialogues and talking with the counterparty in China. And I think China, as you mentioned, being the second largest economy, they have to respond just to to show that they are not very happy with this. But I think, on the other hand, the Chinese government already mentioned, they are still keeping the door open. And the Minister of Commerce spokesperson said yesterday the negotiated door is still open, and then they hope that rationale will prevail and we'll come back to the negotiated table, because it makes no sense. I mean, U.S. government officials, as many of them have said repeatedly, that they don't want to decouple, they don't want to, that stop the development of China. So we see this kind of a tariff hiking is really serving that opposite. So I really hope that both sides can come down and we can come to some reasonable talks.
We'll obviously wait to see what the reaction from the U.S. Will be in a few hours' time. But let's talk about the impact all of this is having on e-commerce, right? Because we know that China is home to around half of Amazon. If you look at a company like Amazon, China is home to half of Amazon sellers, with over 100,000 Amazon businesses who are registered there. How big a blow are these tariffs for e-commerce businesses?
Well, it's an enormous blow. I mean, I really think this is hurting U.S. business as well. Of course, hurting Chinese too. But remember, there are 73,000 U.S. companies invest in China in the last several decades. And now you can imagine, for example, Apple, export 80-90% of Apple products out of China. I'm sure that's going to be levied on this kind of tariff. And Tesla, half of Tesla's cars export out of China. Again, you're going to have this kind of impact as well. And Walmart purchased 60% of all its supplies from China. Of course, on e-commerce and digital as well. So I really think this is really foolish and childish sometimes. And it's like a poker game. It's really not necessary. I would think we should. Sit down and talk and discuss issues that we felt. For example, U.S. government officials said on the issue of fentanyl. I mean, there's 20% right there, and I think China has already done a lot of things there. The former Secretary of State Department of U.S. who is in charge of a fentanyl discussion at the Biden administration, wrote an op-ed recently saying that China's government was very cooperative and to fight the fentanyl. And of course, the death rate of fentanyl in the U.S. last year dropped to 27%. So I think there's things can be done and talk and collaborate. So what we need more official visit. If U.S. initially launched this trade war, I think like the first term, I remember Lighthizer, Mnuchin, they come to China many times, and same for Chinese officials too. So let's start a visit. U.S. Commerce Secretary or Finance Secretary.
Right.
We don't even have a U.S. ambassador in China, so we need that dialogue.
Look, okay, just talking about things that can be done specifically when it comes to this issue of e-commerce that you were mentioning a moment ago. What options do these types of businesses have to mitigate some of the losses?
Well, I think the way they can going forward, of course, for China, certainly China is already no longer the U.S. largest trading partner. The ASEAN's China largest trading partner, and China is doing more business with Europe, with Belt and Road countries and Global South countries. China's trade with Belt and Road countries already gone beyond the 50%. So I think, if this continues, China would certainly trade more with other countries. But I still think that, U.S. has still a very large market. China is a very large market. There's enormous potential for two economies to collaborate. So I hope that, President Trump said many times, if China and U.S. work together, nothing in the world we cannot resolve.
Right.
So I think also President Trump wants to be president of the peace and unify, and China can help on that, on the Russian-Ukraine war and the Gaza, Palestinian, Iranians, and North Korea. So many things can work together with U.S. on the global prosperity and the peace.
We will wait to see what happens. Mr. Wang, you're the president of the think tank Center for China and Globalization, speaking to us from Turkey this hour. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.